What's up, guys? Prince Sports here. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and all that other good stuff. Now, I want to talk about one Kobe Bryant. Okay. Now, when you think of Kobe Bryant, his legacy is a mixed bag for a lot of people. But I do notice one thing: when he was in his prime, or just when he was playing, period, there were some media members actually overrating him, but as on the flip side to that, as much as the media overrated him a couple of times, he's also underrated at the same time. And when you think about his legacy, there's one feature that nobody really talked about, and that is his competition that he faced. Okay, Kobe Bryant faced some of the most toughest competition in NBA history in his title runs. And not to add to that as well, you can make a case that no player in NBA history, he has this over everybody, faced more competition than Kobe Bryant, individually and team-wise. Kobe Bryant played in the Western Conference, and during his prime and during his era, the 2000s, it was such a landslide for the Western Conference compared to the East. It was not even on the same level at all. Okay, some of the best individual talent played in the West. Some of the best teams played in the West. And if you want to get a more deeper look at this, take a look at this. Now, I posted it up from 2000 to 2010. 66 50-win teams in the Western Conference compared to 28 teams in the Eastern Conference. Then you want to move it up a little more. You want to push it to 2000 and at least 2013. You get 80 teams, it doubles. 80 teams in the Western Conference compared to what the East got, still low. So the West doubled in just that 3-year time frame. They went from 66 to 80 50-win teams. Okay. So that means when you was playing at that time in that era in the Western Conference, you had so much more talent to go up against. And you may say, "Oh, that's just a team just teams." What about the individual accomplishments? Well, look at this: from 2000 to 2010, all NBA players faced in the Western Conference as 112, as is posted up, compared to 67 in the Eastern Conference. So the Eastern Conference was still weaker. This just adds to Kobe Bryant's legacy even more. And check this out. There's a stat, an advanced stat. Okay, now advanced stats could be tricky for some people, but you got to read into it a little more. It's basically saying teams that had the toughest championship run or hardest championship run. Houston Rockets is number one at 95 team. They were a lower seed team, like a 6 seed team, and they had to struggle just to win that championship and get back. You know, that's why they earned the title Clutch City, because they were often in clutch situations where they had to make a comeback. But as you can see, Kobe Bryant is in 4 of those categories out of those 12. You know, all four of those teams are with Kobe Bryant on them, and they from that era of the 2000s when the Western Conference was miles ahead. Okay, Kobe Bryant owns this over LeBron. He owns this over Jordan. He had the toughest championship runs. And reason in particularly why, because it was such a landslide in the Western Conference back then. You know, when Jordan played, the Eastern and the West, they were fairly even. I mean, you could make a case that the East was a tad bit better, but it wasn't a landslide to like it is in the 2000s. So with that being said, that's a perfect example right there of showing you how underrated people underlook Kobe Bryant's championship runs. I would say the 24 version of Kobe Bryant is the most impressive out of his whole career. You know, that 3-year span from 2008 to 2010 when he made the finals, he had to go up against some of the toughest competition. And he won 2 out of 3 championships out of that with no big 3, so to speak. You had Paul Gasol as his Scottie Pippen, and you know, good role players, a bunch of guys that were borderline all-stars. I put it like that, you know. but enough to say it was real oppressive, because it was. So that's one thing about the legacy of Kobe Bean Bryant that was overlooked and underlooked. And I thought I'd just clear the air a little bit and show people, Kobe Bryant been through the storm, so to speak. A lot of 50-win teams he had to go up against. And shout out to the Bryant family and Kobe Bryant himself. He's still an all-time great. And that 24 version of Kobe Bryant is what pits him in the all-time list even more so than the ones playing with Shaq. Because keep in mind, a lot of those 50 wins came at the expense of playing with Shaq for Kobe Bryant. 15 of them out of the 25 came from playing with Shaq. But here's the thing. You got to also put in context that Kobe Bryant was facing the T-Macs, the Melos, all these guys, all these perimeter players. Kobe was the one actually guarding and playing against these guys for the most part. Shaq had it a little bit easy at the center position when he was dominating almost every night. Not to say he wouldn't dominate against all-star centers, because he did, but you got to give a tad bit nod to Kobe in that too. So even though he was a sidekick compared to Shaq, 15 of those wins. So it goes both ways, but at the same time, it's still oppressive because Kobe still was on that team, and he still was the dude that getting it in with those individual battles. Peace. Prince Sports out.